Today we are going to be building a used gaming PC for a little over 400 USD, and it's going to have a 10-core, 20-threaded processor, as well as having an RTX 3070 Ti. You're probably thinking, Brian, you can't even buy an RTX 4070 for $400, and you're building a whole gaming PC for this price. And that is right, because this is the power of the used market right here, where I would say the best deal in today's video is this RTX 3070 Ti. I actually got this off a listing actually quite a while ago, before Christmas. I just wanted to make a special build with it, and the guy was nice enough to throw in a 650 watt power supply with the deal. So used deals right now are absolutely amazing if you're building a gaming PC. If you're selling a gaming PC, I will have to make another video talking about the market right now. That's probably why there hasn't been so much content coming out on the channel lately, but that's another video for another day. What we got right here is a build featuring 32 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, 1 terabyte drive new, and also as well as the CPU cooler. These are the only two parts that we are going to be using that are new in today's build, because we also got here a salvaged case. And this right here is a fractal design. I think it's a Focus G. And the motherboard was also salvaged in Taiwan. And so this one was actually from Marco. He managed to salvage this from a scrapyard. So we're gonna be building a very special gaming PC here. 10 cores, 20 threads, and I can hear you guys in the comments. Brian, hand me the used price performance. Give it to me. And I'm gonna give it to you guys right after today's video sponsor. Never pay full price for Windows 10 or 11 again. With today's video sponsor, SCD Keys, you can get activated for as little as $15 using that coupon BFTYC. Links in description below. So two things about this case. The first thing is we have here a custom power supply bracket that we've had to make up ourselves, because I guess that's why I got this for free, because it had no power supply bracket and the person didn't know what to do with it. But if you've got little PCIe brackets here, you can use spare ones and just sort of like cut them in half, and then you can make custom brackets like we did here. And now that power supply is not moving at all, so that's a really good thing. And then another cool thing is we got an i7 sticker at the front here. Even though it says 9th gen, I figured the i7 6950X, it's a 9th gen equivalent. And now here is our PC all up and running. It was actually the first boot. It worked absolutely fine, no troubles. I do have to still, hopefully I can tune up the memory somewhat, because I know there's two limiting factors. These Aliexpress Huananzhi motherboards generally don't have a lot of tuning options in the BIOS, but also the Broadwell CPUs, I think they kind of max out on 4 sticks at around 3000 megahertz memory. But we also had a problem with this case right here, and that was the front panel. If I tried to fit this front panel with these 3 RGB fans installed, it actually just would hit the fan. It wouldn't fit on properly for starters, but then the actual mesh would hit one of the fans and stop it spinning anyway. So I just ripped it out, and it just looks a lot better now, because that RGB, especially when I go to photo this thing to flip it, that RGB is just gonna shine. I mean, it's already shining through on this video, at least from what I can see here. But also, of course, we added in this RGB kit. You can get these off AliExpress really cheap. 4 fans, they include the controller as well, and they're on their own system, so you don't need any extra fan headers or any RGB headers on your motherboard to get something like this working. And the ring fans, they're usually some of the best when it comes to getting bait on inquiries on your ads. So adding that in, do let us know what you think about this now changed fractal design Focus G. But without further ado, we're gonna finish off this Windows install right here, and then we're gonna start seeing what we can tune, and of course, seeing out the performance of this in games. Now, one thing that's lately come to light is there's a resizable bar mod now available on a lot of older boards. I will be doing that in a separate video, because I do believe it's going to have to be a lot of messing around in the BIOS and stuff like that. So we'll try that out in another video, and we'll make a dedicated video towards that, maybe trying it out on X99 and try and get it on, say, an i7-4772, something like the old school 4th gen, because apparently it works all the way back to like Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge too. And then there's that little beep to let you know that it's working. And it's also, yeah, it's got a BIOS code readout on it too. So we've now finished tuning this X99 board and CPU, and there's some good and bad news. And the bad news is the memory only goes up to 2133 megahertz, pretty much the out of the box profile here. And I tried even for a 2400 megahertz, and then it just didn't work at all. And so from the top of my memory, you can waste days like custom hacking a BIOS and putting in manual bottom speed memories. There's like 2666, for example. But even then, if you come into some sort of instability, you then got to go redo your BIOS and you can spend days for something that might not even work properly in the end. So I've learned in the past about these AliExpress motherboards. Your memory overclocks, especially with X99, is pretty much non-existent. But then we come to the CPU, and this board unfortunately has like an 85 watt limit in there, and you can go above that, but the problem is, at least from my experience, is you wouldn't want to go above that. And that's because the VRMs on these boards are just mediocre at best. And so I'm going to adhere to the 85 watt limit, but this is where the good news comes in, and that is the 6950X can run with the BIOS sort of OC menu. You can get up to 4 gigahertz single core and 3.5 gigahertz all core, which is the default turbo profile on the i7-6950X. So I guess that's kind of some good news if people want to get, say, one of these CPUs and get one of these motherboards. If you can't find anything X99 for a decent price from, say, the big original 4 manufacturers, then this could be an option. But that being said, it's time to test out this magical used 3070 Ti and see if it can deliver with this motherboard and CPU. So this PC is now all finished, and we did the benchmarks on 3 different games where Robocop showed the least difference between this PC and the i9-13900K at 1080p high settings. And then the next game up here, we had Spider-Man, and this one showed a bit of a difference at 1080p high settings when we were testing this against the i9-13900K. So the max speeds here do make a difference in this game. And then lastly, I decided to test Fortnite in Battle Royale mode. And here's where at epic settings, there wasn't much of a difference. But if we moved up to low settings and then high textures in Battle Royale, it actually showed a bit of a difference between the i9-13900K and the i7-6950X. But that being said, I could easily get a victory with 150 average FPS, no problems whatsoever. So that now leads us to the main question. And that question is, of course, is X99 still worth it in 2024? And the answer, of course, is going to be yes and no, depending on the prices you can get this stuff for. In the case of the i7-6950X, if you can pick up this CPU for $100 in like we did here, it's easily a good buy. The 10 cores, 20 threads will do a good job, not just in gaming, but also productivity if you're looking for a cheap workstation. But if you're looking at typical eBay market prices and say the i7's more expensive and then the motherboard is going to be over $100, then I think you're better off just looking at something like a new Ryzen 7 5700X B550 motherboard, where that combo will be close to around $300 US. So I think if the combo itself ends up being around $300 US, I would look elsewhere to get better value, even if it's the new market. But in this case, our whole combo here of 32 gigabytes of RAM, the cooler, the motherboard, and the CPU ended up being around $150. And at this price, it's an absolute bargain in my opinion, giving out some really good frame rates and a very playable experience. Also with the power consumption, here was another thing where I guess because this motherboard had an 85 watt cap on it to protect its VRM, it ended up being good in the case of the power consumption results, where the main culprit of raising the power limits was pretty much the 3070 Ti. And in fact, we could undervolt the 3070 Ti, and in games we were just getting a little bit over 300 watts total power draw from the wall. But the last thing to talk about here with X99 is that it's still extremely relevant in 2024. Those AVX2 instruction sets is still the main factor going forward with video games, and in fact DirectX 12 and other APIs like Vulkan are becoming much more mainstream now, and that's even mitigating the big differences between these older architectures and things like the 13900K or the 14900K, which is virtually the same thing, and the new Ryzen CPUs too. So basically, if you want to build yourself a new PC and your goals are to get, say, a really good used graphics card off the market like the RTX 3070 Ti that we tested here today, it's definitely always worth considering looking on the used market for, say, an X99 combo, where even in a previous parts hunt, we picked up a really good deal on an X99 combo with DDR4 memory and a CPU, and that came in at a very good price as well. So basically, in a nutshell, always keep your eye out for a bargain on the used market, where I think I'm actually gonna make an updated video with the used market right now, where I think it's a great time if you're buying, but if you're selling gaming PCs, it's a completely different story. And that's, I guess, why some of the content's been so slow, especially this month, because I haven't even sold the second PC in the flip up challenge yet, because the market has just taken a complete 180 from last year's end of Christmas sales versus now. So really crazy times, but I think now is probably one of the best times to get yourself a deal if you're looking to whip up a used gaming PC. Anyhow, guys, with all that aside, do let us know in the comment section below what you think of this gaming PC right here. I think in the end it came together where we fixed that power supply plate that wasn't included, and then we ripped out that front mesh plastic bit, and we're able to mount some RGB goodness in it for the resale. But also the X99 boards, if you're looking to get the most out of your i7-6950X, then I'd definitely try and get your hands on, say, an ASRock, MSI, or a Zeus, or Gigabyte X99 board, which has much better support for something like this 10-core 20-thread CPU, especially in terms of its VRM and its capabilities there, where you could easily get that to, say, 4.2 gigahertz, or in this case, at its default settings, out of the box, when we had to kind of custom tune this Huananzhi motherboard, it ended up running at like 50 degrees maximum in Cinebench, so it's got a lot of headroom for overclocking, especially over its default profile. Anyhow, guys, with that said, X99 still relevant, though of course it all depends on what you can get in your local used market. Hope you enjoyed today's video. With that aside, I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.